slavery was morally wrong in the North, was it not also morally wrong in the South? If it was morally okay in the South, was it also morally okay in the North? In the beginning of our nation, we struggled a lot over the issue of slavery. Some thought it was morally okay, some thought it was not morally okay. This was something we struggled with until the Civil War. And the progression of slavery throughout our history can be divided into three sections. The first I will call the first section, the first years of slavery. The second will be called the avoidance years of slavery. And then the last section is the last years of slavery. So the first years of slavery. Slavery did not come to the United States with the first immigrants. The first immigrants did not have slaves. Slavery came to the United States when people began to settle in the Carolinas. This is when slavery came. And the founders of our country, although they talked a bit about slavery in the Constitution, did not specifically get rid of it or address it because they thought it would be too much for a new nation to bear. Additionally, they thought that slavery would go away eventually on its own. This brings us to the second point, the avoidance years. These years were when slavery was growing, but people continued to try to avoid the topic of slavery so that our nation would not split apart. One of the people that tried to do this was Andrew Jackson and his partner Martin Van Buren. They created the spoils system. This system worked in a way that they would convince people to vote for them, so that they would be then put into the office once the person they voted for was elected. The hope with this was that the politician would not have to address certain things in order to get elected. Thus, slavery would not have to be addressed. This system would only work, however, the system helped in that the goal would be to put a president in office who would be pro the South but from the North. Additionally, Henry Clay tried to avoid slavery with both his compromises, the Missouri Compromise and the Compromise of 1850. Both of these attempted to make negotiations between the North and the South so that slavery did not have to be addressed. However, the Compromise of 1850 did the exact opposite. It was the final straw in negotiations between the North and the South. The Compromise of 1850 left both the North and the South feeling betrayed, and it led to moderate abolitionists in the North becoming very against slavery. And so laws about slavery that had to be enforced in the North began to not be enforced, and so the North and the South began to continuously split, which led eventually to the Civil War. And so the progression of slavery in the United States can be split into three sections: the first years, the avoidance years, and the late years. In conclusion, slavery is morally wrong everywhere, and it matters very much to God as He created all men equal and He loves all men equally.